Welcome to episode 4 of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I am really, really excited today because I get to talk to one of my favorite clients, colleagues, peers, Jen Hall, who is the queen of clarity. And we're going to be doing a special deep dive coaching session where Jen's bringing her biggest sales problem to the table and I'm going to solve it live. Well, hopefully. If I can't, it's just going to be mortifying and slightly awkward for everybody. Welcome, Jen.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here. I can't wait to ask my juicy question.
I know. I'm very excited about that. I'm very, very excited. So tell us who you are, because I always think it's really boring on podcasts and everyone's like, oh, tell me a story, So, we won't kind of start with Jen from age 5 and how you really, really like dancing. I know.
I'm looking forward to that already.
The travesty. For those of you who can't see the podcast, we are on Zoom and Jez is currently devastated that she can't do jazz hands and, live. But the good news is you can tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Perfect. So basically, I am the clarity queen, or AKA business clarity coach, if you want to be more formal about it. I help online entrepreneurs to really stand out from the crowd. And I do that through helping them find clarity on their niche and ideal client. And they are the biggest foundational blocks of your business. It's imperative that you have these. Otherwise, anything that you do beyond this is virtually pointless in my world. You need to have crystal clear clarity on who exactly it is that you're targeting and what it is that you're solving for them. And so many people overlook this stage, or they think that they've got it and then they don't, and then things get really mixed up. And then this is where, alignment is key. I mean, I know you agree with this. You've got to be aligned with what you're doing. Otherwise, everything gets really messed up. And so people will have they'll have a message, they'll have their passionate why, and they will have what they're offering, and perhaps an idea about who they're offering it to, but they'll find that it's completely disjointed. And so I help these people who are confused at this stage, and this can happen at any stage in business, realign themselves, get themselves to feel on fire about what they're doing, and so they can actually position themselves as an expert in their fields, and they actually feel like the expert, and they don't feel unconfident about what they're delivering.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When people come to me and they say, oh, Jess, I'm not making any money in my business, one of the first things that I always look at with people is, are you actually selling the right thing to the right person? If you don't have clarity, and I think it really is something that we all bandy the word clarity around, and we're all like, yeah, get clarity, it's really important. But also, I want to go and do the sexy money-making webinar stuff because that hopefully is going to bring me money quicker. When in reality, if you don't have clarity, you don't have cash in your business. There is no way that you can have one without the other. So, for me, that is massively, massively important. And I mean, for you, your business has grown on a serious upward trajectory. I mean, you've been in business, a year and a half now?
Yeah, approximately, just over. And you know what, you've played a huge part in helping that happen, but that would have never happened if I hadn't have had the clarity in the first place. Like, you can have, all the kind of sales strategies in the world, the webinars, the click funnels, and other things are available. I don't know what the rules are about branding.
Yeah, we're just going to pimp you out, click funnels. Russell, giving us a listen. A year's worth of free click funnels would be great right by now.
Yeah, exactly. But all of those things, individually are extremely important too, but they're all completely useless. And something that's massively on my radar at the moment is the amount of people who are coming to me saying that they've invested in these kinds of things, these really sexy things, the genuine shiny objects where, you're promised that you can make so much money in this particular area, but you've not laid the ground, you've not done the groundwork, and it's just never going to happen for you. And it's really upsetting to see how much people have spent and they then think their business isn't going to work, but in actuality it can. And this is the thing I really want to say to people, is that those investments are not wasted. You're just not ready for them yet. Keep all of those skills and those tools there, but just go back to the beginning, because in, say, 3 to 6 months time, you'll have to be going back to the beginning anyway, because you have to keep checking where you're at, around about that time period, because things do shift and change. It's very important to realign yourself again, but it doesn't mean that any of those amazing tools go away. They're still really useful, but don't overlook it. It's just so important.
Yeah, totally. It's a bit like, dating. When you're on the rebound, Tinder is not for you. But when you're ready,
It's there to
yeah, exactly. Absolutely. For anybody who's wondering, I met Sam on Plenty of Fish. I would highly recommend it. There we go.
Excellent. So I think Tinder is for the breakup period, and Plenty of Fish just when you're ready.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Plenty of Fish is for those of you who are serious. Okay, perfect. So I'm really excited because your question about and bear in mind, guys, like when I've been asking people to come in and come onto the podcast and talk about the biggest sales question, I haven't been forcing them chopping off toenails or anything and being like, tell me your biggest question now. We've been asking what their biggest sales question is. So it's the really juicy sales question that hopefully you will want to know the answer to as well. And Jen has an absolute corker. So take it away.
Well, this is a bit of a finicky one because you hear a lot of people asking about, sales calls, like how do I go through a sales call? How does it work? What should I say? What's the script? All that kind of stuff. And that's great. Learning from the best, Jessica Lorimer, I know how to run a sales call, absolutely no problem, aka discovery call, clarity call is what I call them. And that's absolutely fine. But where the kind of grey area comes in and the lines start to blur is when you offer one of those calls where you're like, maybe perhaps someone's won it as part of a challenge, or you're offering them out as a prize of some sort. In terms of you're saying to them, I'm actually going to give you something. I am actually going to coach you on this call. How do you turn a one-off coaching session into a sale? Because I just want to add on here, just to give it some background, that the reason I don't coach on a sales call is because I don't want people to run off with half an answer and think they've got it when they actually don't, and it was potentially damaging to them, as well as the obvious of actually losing the sale. So how do you actually give them something juicy and amazing whilst continuing on and selling them into something higher and a larger program?
Yeah, totally. It's a really good one. And firstly, love that you don't coach on discovery calls. Everyone should just make a note of that right now. You should never, ever coach on a discovery call for that exact reason, right? You give somebody half an answer and they walk away and they feel like they can do it themselves. And a lot of the time they can't. And then when they look back and go, oh, who helped me get that half an answer? They'll drag up your name and they won't come back to you, right? Because they feel like you're part of the problem. But in terms of the free calls, I always think you've got to manage expectations. You've got to be realistic, because a lot of the time, if you give away free calls as a prize, they're 30 minutes or, potentially an hour. And I always think I can't solve someone's entire sales funnel problem in 1 hour. That's why we do things like intensives, or people work one-on-one with clients for a longer period. So you've got to be specific when you outline, hey, you've won this call. It's going to be great. I'm really excited to talk to you. Here are some of the examples of things that we could cover in this time. So for example, like we might be able to cover off how you would grow your list, or we might be able to cover, how to generate instant cash in your business, or we might be able to cover your setting new goals for your 90-day plan or your marketing or whatever that looks like. But, when you're on the call, just manage that expectation and say, look, these are the kinds of things that we can cover. What would you like to dig into today? And that's what we're going to spend this hour talking about. And that way the client feels really good, because ultimately they've still got the free call. They know it's going to be specific. They know that they're actually going to get actionable things. And also it makes them think before the call, what do I want to talk about? Because a lot of the time people come to a coaching session, you'll say, okay, how are you getting on? They're like, oh, I'm fine. I don't know. Yeah. And then 40 minutes in, they're like, oh, actually I do have a question. And it's taken them that time to warm up because they weren't properly prepared for it. So what you could also do is be sending them out, when you send out this email letting them know that they've won and that they can talk about something specific and you've given them the examples, ask them to send you something back in advance of the call saying, this is what I'd like to talk about. This is where I'm currently struggling with it. This is what I've tried so far. And this is, how I want you to help me, what kind of questions I want to ask you, so that you can be prepared for what they're actually going to ask on the call and you're spending that time productively.
Amazing. And I absolutely adore that answer. And I think just to kind of open up a can of worms here is that it really ties into, you know, the fact, I mean, you're known for never having a no on a discovery call, right? And you talk about it because you massively put a lot of effort into pre-qualifying who comes on the call.
Yeah.
And again, that's all about managing expectations on both sides. And, you know, we're kind of doing a very similar thing here, I guess, right? We're managing the expectations and making sure that both parties understand what's going to be discussed.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the great thing about doing it that way is that when you get to the end of that call and you say to that person, are you happy with the information you've had today? You know, do you know where you're going moving forward? They can say yes, and they are confident in that. You can also say at the end of that call, are there any areas that you still don't feel that you are completely confident in, or that you think will cause you a problem when it comes to implementing this plan? And if they say yes, and they start outlining other problems, you say, look, this call is a free call. There's no pitch here. If you would like to arrange another call, or you have 15 minutes now, I'm happy to explain how I can help you, but I'm conscious that this is your free call. So I'd rather you went away and thought about it and booked in a separate time to talk specifically about how you would like to move forward with me if I'm the right choice for you. And that way, again, it's done with integrity. It's not bait and switch. You haven't got on the call and tried to give them like crappy information and then expected them to buy because you pitched them or made them feel uncomfortable. You've said, look, these are areas that potentially still could be a problem for you. I recognize that. I hear that. If I'm the right fit to help you, we can schedule another call, but go away and sleep on it and think about whether you want to do that before you jump into buying something that potentially you didn't want, need, were planning on implementing.
Oh, I absolutely love that answer. And I think that, you know, I think it's really important because that whole bait and switch thing, as you said, just goes down like a lead balloon. You feel icky, they feel icky, and it just leaves a really bad taste in their mouth in terms of wanting to move forward with you. So I absolutely love that way. That just feels so in alignment with integrity and such a lovely way of doing it. And the likelihood is if they do really like you and they've got that far, that they're probably just going to go, just tell me now. Yeah. Like, I'm cool, just let me know now what's going on. I mean, personally, that's what I would do if I was there and ready and interested.
Jen, the action taker.
Yeah. Put the wallet away.
Right? You know, I think when we look at these calls, and a lot of people do this, they're offering the things for free with the expectation that, okay, I can change it into a bait and switch scenario. And you know what? Yes, you can. But it doesn't leave that person with a good impression. If you bait and switch them on something that's supposed to be super valuable, you're not going to get the best sale. You might get one sale, but ultimately, if that person has made a decision because they feel uncomfortable and like they actually feel like they owe you the sale because you just gave them an hour of free coaching or something, it won't lead to a good relationship. Whereas if you just give them the value and you explain, yes, I can help you with these other things. If you want to talk about it later, we can. Not a problem. You know, one of the other things I've actually seen done really well, just on the note of competitions. So if anyone's running competitions / giveaways and you want to give away a call, get everybody to comment. You know, get everybody to comment in your Facebook group or on your business page, or wherever it is you're doing it. And everybody who doesn't win, send them a gift voucher. Like an actual gift voucher. Create it in Canva or PicMonkey or Stencil or whatever you use. Because I love gift vouchers. I don't know about you, but I get one. And when it's in my purse, I'm like, I have to spend that. I never wanted to spend money on kitchen supplies before, but now I have a voucher. I'm off. Like all of the pans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah. And you send them all a gift voucher, and actually you can make a lot of sales that way. So there are 2 ways of making the sales, or actually 3. You know, if you run a competition in the first place, you've obviously got the person who's won. Yay for them, they get the free call, and then potentially they will upsell at the end of that free call. If you've done your job and you've proven that you give massive value, then it's very easy for that person to see how they would extend their journey with you. At the end of your competition, hopefully you've launched a product or service, so yay, you're going to make some money there because people want to buy. And then if you're sending out gift vouchers to everybody that entered, you're making it a very easy way for them to purchase and to continue that buying relationship with you. So it's 3 ways of making money from one free thing.
Absolutely. I really love that, because I've done it in the past where I've given all of the challenge takers some money off the thing that I was selling. But I really love the idea of actually physically giving them a present, because I think people really respond well to that.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I used to, back in the day, I used to literally create a little gift voucher in Canva, and I put everybody's name on it. And so, yes, it takes time, right? Okay, this is a manual idea. But if you aren't making a ton of money in your business right now, these are the kinds of ideas that you should be spending your time on, and activities that you should be spending your time on. Because let's face it, you have the time to write 20 people's names in Canva and send them through Facebook Messenger. Because ultimately, if that nets you $1,000 or $2,000, it's an hour well spent. You know, that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it all comes back down to how much your lead's worth. So many people get scared about investing money, but also it's also about investing time, right, into making sure those people, you know, are nurtured. And that's yet another way to make them feel a bit special and welcome, and the fact that you value them as a customer.
Yeah,
or a
absolutely. Potential. It's a really interesting, you know, it's a really interesting concept. I was talking to Scott, who produces the podcast. Thanks, Scott, for taking out all the edits and stutters that I usually make. But I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking about how your customer isn't a statistic, because so many people are treating every single customer like they're a number. And that's effectively what usually happens in this kind of scenario where you're giving away a one-off call. You know, people are expecting that the statistic is, I'll give away a one-off call and that's going to make me X amount of money. Now, yes, it can do that. But in order for you to make the money, you have to have the relationship in the first place. And you've got to make that person who won feel valued, feel special, feel like something great is coming of this for them. You know, and that it's not just a money grabbing opportunity. And you've also got to make everyone else who participated feel good. So things like gift vouchers, things like special training sessions for the people who didn't win are really, really useful, and ultimately will create you a fan base who want to stick with you forever, but also will make the money that you're looking for.
Amazing. Just as as another idea whilst we're talking competitions, it's taking a funny turn, but you know, this is generally the way these free kind of coaching calls go, right? You know, would you recommend running like a kind of a Zoom conference call type Q&A with the people that potentially didn't win, that can also be there and take some value out of that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think a one-off training session where everyone gets to ask a question and you'll go through and just like laser answer them. Maybe they don't get laser coaching like I'm sat with you now, but even if they get to submit a question, have it answered and in a safe environment, is a really, really cool thing for people to do. You know, and it makes them feel exclusive. It makes them feel valued. It makes them feel like something really good happened. And again, at the end of the Zoom, you can be like, hey guys, you know where I am. If you want to reach out, you want to find out how I can help you in other ways, this is how you can contact me. You've got your gift vouchers. Off you go. You know, and again, it takes that sleaze and ick out of it, and it makes people feel really good because they've had a good experience. The natural feeling is, I want to go back and have another good experience, and I want to go back and have another good experience.
Yeah, I want more.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I'm just guessing that, because I mean, I've asked, you know, when you put out that whole kind of Q&A thing to people and you get some really bizarre questions, I think to prepare for that, get people to send in their questions in advance, because I've had some real, like, I don't understand why you're in my group. Like, what question is that? Like, no offense, you're really lovely, but I don't know why you've asked that, because I have no idea. It's not within my area of expertise whatsoever, but great question.
I think that's the thing. You've got to, and as with anything, right, you've got to always pre-qualify, because ultimately when we leave it completely open, people will rack their brains trying to find something, and it will be the first thing that pops into their head. And I'm terrible for this. You know, if I go into a social situation at a party, I will say anything to get rid of the uncomfortable silence, literally anything. And it's really dangerous, because sometimes I will say things that are really normal, like, hey, how are you? And other times I'll be like, oh my goodness, at least this isn't like the party where I accidentally dressed up as an olive when everyone else is doing gangsters and moles. Who starts with that? I do. Okay, so you know, it's like that. That's how your audience feels when you ask them an open-ended question. They're like, oh, what could I say? And they can go for the, oh, Jen's a clarity expert. I'm going to ask her something about goal setting, about niches, about clarity, ideal clients. Or they have a complete foot in mouth moment and go, I don't know, but I'm really excited to ask her a question. So I'm just going to ask her something about digital marketing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I can't help you, but I really like that you engaged. So definitely set the boundaries there around, I can answer questions on this, bring those to people. Well, like you say, get them to submit them in advance and do them on a Facebook Live or something just for those people. But yeah, I think competitions are a great way to generate leads, to generate money, and also to foster really good long-term relationships with people that actually are or do become your die-hard fans. Because ultimately, when you value people and when you treat people in a way that makes them feel good, they will keep coming back because that's what they associate with you. Value and feeling good.
Awesome. Can I ask one little sneaky question?
Of course you can.
Because it's gone this way. You've opened up the can of worms now, so it's going to happen. The question's about to be asked. What is your opinion on paid challenges, stroke competition, versus free challenges, stroke competitions?
That's a really interesting one. And paid challenges are something that are relatively new to the online market. And I think there are selling points to both. A free challenge can be a great list build. Okay, so you can build a fantastic list with a free challenge because it can be a great way for people to get to know you for the first time, particularly if you run an epic challenge where you give a ton of value. People actually want to show up, they want to take part, and it can lead to sales of a much higher product at the end. With a paid challenge, the expectation is more that the client will commit to actually doing the work. With a free challenge, it's really easy to cop out on day 3 and be like, oh, well, today I just woke up and I'm busy and I can't do it and I can't fit it into my schedule. With a paid challenge, the expectation is more that the client is going to take this seriously. So it's not necessarily about you demonstrating a congruent skill that is related to the service that you're going to be selling later on. It's more about you giving them the best accountability possible and making sure that they actually make it through because they need to get what they paid for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great answer. I love it.
Thanks.
Have you ever done, because I've sort of been in your midst for a little while now, or since the beginning really. Have you ever done paid challenges before? Like, is it something that you consider doing, and if not, why not?
I've never done a paid challenge. I've done boot camps, which I feel are semi-similar in that people have to show up each day, they get an email prompt or a video prompt or something, and they have to do the task. I think they're really worthwhile. I think they are really good. The reason that I don't do them for my free challenges and things is because they don't have the same purpose. If I'm doing a free challenge, it's because I want to showcase the value that I add early in the process so that I attract the right people who identify with my way of working, who identify with my way of teaching, and who ultimately maybe will convert into clients at the end of that program or challenge or at some point in the future. Either way, they've been fully indoctrinated into my community and they're happy, raving Jess fans. A paid boot camp for me, or a paid challenge, would be more about me taking people that I already know are action takers, but who struggle with accountability in one area, and not necessarily growing my community as a result. I wouldn't be growing my community. I'd be taking existing members of my community and offering it to them. And I would be offering it out to cold traffic, but the conversion would be a lot lower in terms of the amount of people who would buy a straight up paid challenge from cold traffic. And also, the purpose of it would be very different. The purpose would be much more about, yes, to a certain degree, deepening the relationships with the people who are in the paid challenge. But the overall purpose is much more about, let's make sure that these people actually get this stuff done in the week or 2 weeks that they're involved in that.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think you think you're totally right. I think it all does come down to why you're doing it, what's the purpose, and deciding from there. And also what works for your business, because, what do you teach? What do you coach people in? Would a paid one actually, suit? Or are you doing it in order to boost engagement, grow your tribe, like you said, indoctrinate them into your community? Because for me, just my personal opinion, free all the way, because it really helps to build the most amazing buzz in your community. I absolutely love challenges, and they're brilliant.
Exactly. I mean, you've got to reverse engineer it for your business. There are businesses that paid challenges will work for, but again, you've got to have that key purpose and think about, why am I doing this? Is it to grow my community? And if so, a free challenge is going to be way better. And it's going to, like you say, hype up your community for a week or 2 weeks, however long you're doing it. And it's going to benefit you in that it will have a return on investment. A paid challenge is going to have a return on investment. People are going to pay up front. They may not upsell at the end of it, because there may not be anywhere else for them to go, but they will have a strong relationship with you. They will recommend you to other places. Bear in mind as well, with something like a paid challenge, you're not giving them a deeply transformative service. A paid challenge is more about accountability. And whilst that can be huge for people, if they're really, really struggling with overwhelm or prioritization or anything like that, that can be absolutely huge. But you aren't doing the transformational work that someone would expect at a higher price point. So just bear that in mind, that when people then look back and go, okay, what was the transformation I had? They are going to need the next step. And whether that comes from you or whether that comes from somebody else is directly down to how you've managed that paid experience for them and how well you have congruently planned out your products and services moving forward.
I love that. And I think that's a really important point to make, the fact that you've got to be thinking ahead all the time. And what we can sometimes do, particularly how I used to be, was that I used to think, brilliant, I'm going to do a challenge. Like, well, why are you doing a challenge, Jen? What's the point of it? What's the purpose of the challenge? And then what are you doing next? Like, think ahead. And we can be particularly reactive because we get excited. But at the end of the day, everything you do has to have a purpose. And that's something that's like permanently ingrained in my head now. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why should someone be bothered to join it? And what are they going to get at the end of it? And then where can they go? What's the call to action? What's happening next? I think that's a really important point.
Exactly. See, there we have it. That's why you are the clarity genius. You've got all the who, what, where, when, how, why questions.
All of those. I will be renamed as Dr. Zeus.
Amazing. So Jen, tell everybody where they can find you if they need some clarity in their lives.
Awesome stuff. So I have an amazing Facebook group myself where I sometimes do challenges, which is called Awaken the Boss, Monetize Your Mission. And I would absolutely love to have you in there. If you are somebody who, likes to keep on track with their alignment, is perhaps having a problem with understanding what their niche looks like and, who they're serving, then come and join me, because I run regular trainings in there and would absolutely adore you to be a part of it.
There you go, guys. That was episode 4. That was our very first episode where we bring somebody in and we do some laser coaching.
I did not know I was the first one. I'm super excited. The fact that I'm like the first person to come in and do this, that is awesome. Wow, I'm privileged.
You popped the laser coaching cherry of this podcast. So there you go.
I love it.
So that was episode 4. That was episode 4, guys. Come back, join me on Monday for episode 5. We're going to be talking about why your customer isn't a statistic and how you can actually sell more by making them feel valued. So we'll be continuing this conversation, and then we'll be back with some more laser coaching next Friday. Thank you so much, Jen. It's been an absolute blast, and you'll be able to find Jen's Facebook group in the show notes. So head over there, click to get into her group, and also make sure that you subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher if you haven't done already. And if you've liked this episode, you've liked me, you've liked Jen, you've liked our chat, please leave us a review. Thanks very much.
Thank you.